Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas alongside Michael the Count Bisping, who faces Jason Mayhem Miller this Saturday night at the Ultimate Fighter 14 finale, live and free on Spike TV. And Michael, thank you so much for the time. It's good to see you again, and I always appreciate talking to you. Many things that I want to talk to you about, and I want to start at the same place that I started with Jason yesterday.
Okay.
You know, we're obviously used to big UFC fight weeks. Your last two fights, O2 Arena in London, you know, it was a sold-out crowd. You had the Ace Arena in Sydney, another sold-out crowd, a lot of buzz, a lot of hoopla. This one, no media workouts, no press conference, not a lot of buzz going into it, perhaps due to the relationship between the UFC and Spike TV. Mm-hmm. Does this feel a little different to you?
Good question. No, not really. At the end of the day, I'm still going to get into the octagon on Saturday night and face an opponent. My training camp's been the same, so predominantly all the lead up to it, you know, for this fight has been exactly the same as any other fight, you know, which is, you know, going through a strenuous training camp. Yes, it's going to be a smaller arena, but right from the word go with me doing this season of The Ultimate Fighter, Dana said straight away, this isn't going to be on pay-per-view, this is going to be a Spike show. So I think he probably knew, I mean, I can't speak for Dana, he probably knew then, you know, about this, I don't know, they knew that this was the end of their time with Spike. But he was going to put the our fight on the finale. So I knew right from then, I agreed to do it, and I'm happy. You know, I mean, I think me and Jason did a good season of The Ultimate Fighter, and obviously we've got a fight now, and that's it. All right, the press conference has been cancelled. To be honest, I'm happy with that. It's less work for me to do, less distractions the week of the fight. So yeah.
Not being on pay-per-view, you know, there's some prestige involved in being on pay-per-view and the big numbered UFC events and whatnot. None of that bothers you?
Yeah, well, a little bit. I mean, when I first found out it was going to be a Spike show, yeah, I was a little disappointed. This is the first time in my career that it hasn't been, you know, one of the big pay-per-views or a televised, you know, overseas event on Spike. You know, basically in a big arena. You know, at first I was like, oh, that's, you know, it's a bit disappointing, but whatever, you know. The UFC's been good to me. They've been great employees. They've looked after me and my family. So, you know, they want me to fight Jason Miller and film The Ultimate Fight, and they want that fight to be on Spike. You know, then I'm fighting Jason Miller, and that's going to be on Spike.
You last fought in February in Australia, and now we're, what, 10 or so months later. You're in the prime of your life, prime of your career, no injuries. You just had to take some time off to do the show. Sure. Are you happy with that decision?
Taking so much time off is always a downside. That's the big downside of doing The Ultimate Fighter. As you said, I'm in my prime. I want to fight as much as possible. Just had some time off. As I said, you know, that's not what I would have liked, but I want to make up for it. I'm going to get through this. Listen, all my fights, I come out of it unscathed. You know, one fight, I've only been stopped once, and only really one definitive loss in my entire career. Other than that, I come out looking exactly the same as what I went in, and my opponents normally go to the hospital, which is quite funny for someone that has no punching power. Because 6 of my last 7 all went to the hospital, so that's where Jason's going to go. But so yeah, I'll walk through this guy. I'll have no injuries, and I'll be fighting again very, very soon to make up for the time off that I had.
What do you say to the people who complain that you are being rewarded for being on the show because you're getting this platform, you're fighting, or you're on Spike TV for what, 12 or so weeks leading up to the fight, so it's a lot of exposure, but this is coming off a very controversial moment in your career. You were fined by the UFC and whatnot. What do you say to those people who said it wasn't quite fair to give you this gift of being on The Ultimate Fighter after the Rivera fight?
Get over it. Simple as that, get over it, you know what I mean? It was a long time ago. I did what I did, I went out, I put on a great fight. Jorge Rivera talked a lot of trash, and he paid the price, you know? I did a couple of things maybe I regret, but, you know, that's all in the past now. And, you know, look, we just did a fantastic season of The Ultimate Fighter. I think they picked they picked the perfect guy in me, you know? Who were they going to put on? Some political correct, boring bastard that, you know, that you'd rather watch paint dry, you know? No, you got a great season of The Ultimate Fighter. A lot of people are talking trash, but the viewing figures have been good. They've tuned in every week, so I think the UFC made the right decision.
You've had a great run in the UFC, there's no doubt about it. You've been some of the best guys in the sport, in your division. But are you at all afraid? And I know you're a guy who maybe to the casual fan, they think you're just some, insensitive a-hole who doesn't care about anyone. But I know you do care about this stuff. Are you afraid that your legacy will be all that other stuff? The spitting, the booing, all that stuff, and people won't remember you for being a great fighter?
No, I don't think that at all. I think people will remember me for being a great fighter. That's what I've done my whole life, and that's what I'm known for. If it weren't for my fighting, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
So do you feel as though at any point that stuff almost was a good thing for your career, all that other negativity? It seems to me like there are some guys who don't want to embrace it, but there are others who, when they start to run with it, I think of guys like Josh Koscheck, I think of guys like Chael Sonnen, when they start to run with it, maybe you're not getting the fan mail that someone like George St. Pierre is getting, but you're certainly getting the money, you're certainly getting the fame, you're certainly getting the attention. It's not all that of a bad thing, right?
Well, I mean, you could say that, but I mean, for me, I've never gone out and thought about it. I'm just being myself.
You don't think about it?
I don't think about it. I'm not purposely. None of this is orchestrated. It makes me laugh last night for the fight with British bad boy, and I'm like, bad boy? I'm not a bad boy. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I've done a few things over the course of my career that I regret. I've said a few things I regret, but I'm just a normal, average, working class guy that's managed to do well in his chosen profession, and. Sometimes I say the wrong thing and put my foot in it, but, come on, don't we all? I'm only human, and I'm always quick to apologise. I'm an emotional guy. People are going to make interviews about you. Somebody made a string of videos about you on the internet, talking about your family and where you come from and your wife and etc. You'd be a bit offended and you might say a few harsh words. Only difference is I was on TV in front of millions of people, so it's kind of, amplified. But yeah, no, you know what I mean? None of it's orchestrated. I'm who I am.
You say that you're an emotional guy, and I think it really comes down to that because when someone is emotional, they may react one way and then maybe a few minutes later kind of regret their actions.
I do that all the time.
Were you always like that? Were you like that as a kid in high school? And have you just not changed over the years?
No, I've definitely changed.
So you were worse.
Down.
So in high school, if someone would say something about your mom on the pitch or something,
nothing like that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've always been a bit quick-tempered, but I've calmed down a hell of a lot over the years. Having 3 children and things like that has done that, and having a happy family life and stuff has calmed me down. But there you go.
So I remember being in Anaheim just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And there's a great fight going on. It's UFC on Fox.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, everyone's booing.
Yep.
And I don't understand why. And then I look over my shoulder, and you have entered the arena.
I have entered the arena.
How does that not bother you? Don't you say to yourself, why do these people hate me so much?
Listen, I laughed my ass off, and I did. I was laughing. If you could have zoomed in on my face, I was smiling, and I turned around and I jeered them all back, so to speak, and give them a little display of bravado, so to speak, and they all cheered. You'll quickly notice that all these same people all wanted pictures. They all wanted pictures, and they all wanted to sign stuff and this and that, and which I did. Even though they all booed, I still happily stood there and signed autographs and, shot the for a few seconds and whatever and this and that, and so yeah, listen, I don't lose any sleep over it at night. My life is very happy, very, very happy, and people jump on this bandwagon, everyone hates Michael Bisping. No, they don't. Trust me, I can walk downstairs now, right, and you can come with me and bring the camera, and people run over, Bisping, you're awesome, da 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 da. For some reason you get a group together and they'll go, on the internet or whatever, I'm this bad guy, but that's not my experiences in life.
I actually saw that firsthand in Denver when there was a group of people just who wouldn't leave you alone on the street,
yeah.
And you wonder, do these people just sort of love to hate you? Do they like the sort of?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. You'd have to go and ask them, And Jason Miller, he's the guy I'm fighting, so I'll use him. But he's quick to jump on this, but no one likes him and this and that, It's old hat, and to be honest, I couldn't care. I really couldn't care. My life, I am like a pig in for want of a better expression. I'm a very, very happy person. Very happy person. I'm a happy-go-lucky type person, but I'm also a very happy person with where my life is. I have 3 beautiful children. I have a beautiful fiance. I have the best job in the world. I get paid a lot of money, and I'm very happy. So, you know, I'm living the dream, and I couldn't give a shit what some assholes that I've never met form an opinion on something. When they see me on The Ultimate Fighter, I'm having a laugh, and if people can't realise that, they need to, you know, it's themselves they need to look at, you know. So whatever.
Are you happy with the way you came across on the show?
Pretty much, for the most part. For the most part, there was a few things that were edited that I didn't like. There's a few things taken out of context.
Like what?
Well, one big thing that stuck in my mind was the Steve Seiler fight. Diego knocks out Steve Seiler, and Diego knocks out Steve Seiler. Steve Seiler was on the floor and he was very emotional. He was crying after the fight in the octagon. I went over and I consoled Steven Seiler. I gave him a big hug and I gave him a good talking to about what a great fighter I thought he was, because the guy's got skills. I said, listen, you know, unlucky you fought Diego. In my opinion, he's going to win the whole thing, and I always said that. And you just came up against the toughest guy in the house. Other than that, you know, you did really well. Yada yada. You know the type of thing you say. You're trying to make him feel better. The poor guy's just been knocked out and now he's crying. Then after that, you know, as usual, me and Miller get into some verbal sparring. There's a bit of back and forth. Now on the show, Seiler get knocked out. Then they cut to me shouting, which happened later on in real life. You know, that was me and Miller joking. They cut to me shouting, and then they cut back to Seiler sat on the floor crying. So it looks like I'm shouting at Seiler, but that is not how it happened at all. You know, so a couple of things like that. You know, I mean, that's one example. That was the biggest one that annoyed me. You know, because I thought, oh, they might show my softer side here that people don't see. But no, they actually played with it to make me look like an absolute asshole. But, you know, whatever, you sign up for reality TV, that type of stuff's going to go down, and I have no problem with it, you know.
It seems to me like this is not Bisping Rivera, this is not Bisping Henderson. That, yes, you did have your moments with Jason, but there's a mutual respect there. That deep down you guys actually do like each other, and you're not walking into this fight with that deep hatred.
No. I didn't have too much of them, but the things he said and done recently in interviews don't sit too well with me.
Like what?
Yeah, he just completely discredited me as a mixed martial artist, you know, just like a lot of my opponents do. Completely discredited me, and I've worked my entire life since I was 8 years old as a martial artist, and for him to say those things, I take it very personal. So therefore, after this fight, I have no more words to say to Jason.
You don't think that's just him selling the fight?
Well, it may be, but you know, if he's making a mistake. You know, I don't want his friendship after this fight. I never want to see him again. I'm going to beat him up, and then my saga, the Michael Bisping and Jason Miller connection is done forever, over. You know what I mean? I didn't know him before. I don't know him after. I'm out of his league. You know, and he's had a nice little ride off my coattails.
When they called you up and said you're fighting Jason Miller and you're going to have to coach against him on The Ultimate Fighter, this is a guy who fought recently in Strikeforce, Dream, right? You know, he's fought for other organizations outside the UFC. He hasn't fought in the UFC in 6 years. Did you feel like, this guy's not on my level, I shouldn't be fighting Jason?
No, not at all. I never think that.
You just said he was out of your league.
Yeah, he's out of my league, meaning that, you know, I've been fighting in the UFC for a long, long time, fighting the best there is, and he's coming up from a smaller organisation. I never said he was, I don't think he's beneath me. I don't think he's beneath me. I recognise he has skills as a fighter, but, you know, I want to be fighting for the title. You know, I want to be fighting the top contenders. You know, I didn't want to be fighting Jason Miller, who's not going to get me there. You know, yeah, of course he has skills, and I never ever underestimate an opponent, and my training camp reflects that.
So, in this fight, in your opinion, what is even at stake? Because we're not quite sure what's going on with the middleweight title picture, Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva. We don't know where they're going to go with it.
Well, what's at stake for me is,
well,
there's a lot of Jason is the one who gains out of this fight. You know, I'm going to get a payday. I'm going to get more time in the octagon. I'm going to get time, more experience as a fighter. But it doesn't really push me up the rankings. You know, Jason's the one who gains in that respect. But, you know, I enjoy the challenge. I love the sport of mixed martial arts. I love the challenge. I'm going to enjoy fighting him on Saturday night, and I'm going to enjoy paying my checks into the bank on Monday morning.
If you win on Saturday night, and I'm sure you'll say when you win, who do you think they'll match you up with?
I don't know if I'm to read Chael Sonnen's comments, which I was doing this morning. Possibly Chael Sonnen now.
Do you believe him?
You can't believe the thing that comes out of his mouth. So you know.
Would you be happy with that?
Listen, I've never turned down a fight in my life, unlike a lot of people. So yeah, listen, you can ask the UFC. I've never turned down. The only fight that I questioned was the Jorge Rivera fight because I asked for Nate Marquardt instead. That was the only time I've ever got my manager to go back and say, well, what about this? And I said, well, no, I'd rather fight Nate Marquardt, and Nate Marquardt turned it down for a second time, incidentally, before he got busted for steroids. Yeah.
I like how you threw that one in there.
Yeah, of course, yeah. He's quick to disparage me. After the Jorge Rivera thing, he brought the sport into disrepute. My ass wasn't a pin cushion for the last 10 years. I wasn't using steroids. Who's bringing the sport into disrepute?
Do you think that's a problem in our sport?
A massive problem.
How so?
I don't take steroids, ever in my life. I know a lot of people do. So there's the problem. Testosterone replacement therapy.
What do you think of that?
I think it's absolute Do you take it? Do you have low testosterone?
Thankfully.
You may do, you're looking at you.
Wow.
I'm joking, Ariel.
Hanging out with Rampage.
Yeah, no, listen, it's people...
do you think people are using this who don't need
it? I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to base it on this, and I've read a little bit, and I've, you know, followed some of the doctors' statements and whatnot in the cases of the, you know, the athletic commissions and whatnot, but I know very little really, let's be honest, I'm not a doctor. But it would appear to me that fighters, alpha males, have high testosterone levels. I know I do. I've probably got too much, which is why I say things I regret. And I would imagine that people that do what I do for a living, you know, are a similar makeup. They don't have low testosterone levels. They're not going around having sex changes, okay? But when you abuse steroids, that does affect your natural production of testosterone. Hence, therefore, if you need testosterone replacement therapy, okay? So I would say that the people taking that have been abusing steroids in the past and therefore have low testosterone, and that's why, because they don't eat.
What's the solution, though?
I don't know. You're asking a question that I do not have the answer to.
Do you feel as though more than at least 50%, like when you go into a fight, there's a 50-50
I can't say that. I don't know, but I know people do. I know people come out of the woodwork and say, oh yeah, I've been doing TRT for 10 years, which I think is I think it should be all natural, you know. I use a bit of protein powder and some L-glutamine. That's my supplements, you know. Simple as that.
Just a few more things before I let you go, and I thank you for the time very much.
Are we going to talk about anything to do with this weekend, or are we just going to try and, you know, what? Is this 60 minutes? Are we going into, you want to know about my childhood? Did my dad beat me?
That was my next question. Well, I figured.
You know what I mean? Or are we going to talk about this prick that I'm fighting this weekend?
Well, to be honest, I feel like you've talked about him. I had to think about him a lot. So
yeah, true. No, I'm enjoying them. Yeah.
A break, okay. But if you want,
it's a welcome break.
Let's get back to Mr. Mayhem. He claims that there are people in your camp that are feeding him information.
Yes.
Who are these people?
They are non-existent. They are fragments of his imagination. The guy, you know, I think that's a sign of nerves. That's nerves creeping in now. He's trying to unsettle my camp. I think he's jumping on the bandwagon of the whole Rampage Spygate thing, and he's, you know, it's nonsense. I've had a very small camp, you know. I say very small. It hasn't been that small, but I've had, you know, a very close-knit camp. Sorry, is the word I'm looking for. And yeah, none of them have been saying anything. I know that for a fact.
He is friendly though with some of the people in your camp.
Yeah, he is. And to be honest, I couldn't care less, even if they had. Jason can come down and sit there and watch every sparring session and every training session, and it's still not going to make a blind bit of difference. You can watch a guy fight your whole life. It doesn't mean you can get in there and beat him because you've watched him. So I really, for me, I really don't care. And maybe some of his friends have actually, because you know, I was training in Tiki's gym, and you know, there was members of the public floating around. So maybe, you know, maybe some people did tell him some things, but they're not members of my camp. But even still, as I say, it really doesn't bother me. I couldn't care less. It's not going to change anything on Saturday night. He's not going to go, oh yeah, I noticed that when he you know, does this, he does that, you know, and that's going to give him the advantage on Saturday night. You know, oh, he escapes an armbar this way. You know what I mean? It ain't going to matter.
Did you even question your team? Or
no, not at all. I laughed. I chuckled. It was another pathetic attempt, just like that video from those assholes that make t-shirts.
When you do think about this fight, when you envision it, how do you see it playing out?
This fight, I I've got him beat in all areas. I really have. You know, I mean, I don't see what he can do. Yes, he's. I'm not completely discrediting him as a fighter, as he seems to have done to me. You know, he's trained in the sport of mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and whatnot for a long time. So therefore, anyone that's done that, who is your same size, is going to be able to come at you and do something. His boxing isn't very good though. His boxing isn't very good. I've got a massive advantage there. His kicking is somewhat effective, but they're unorthodox. So, you know, I'm going to have to... I'm a much better technical kickboxer, but he is unorthodox. I'll have to watch out for that. Wrestling wise, I'm a better wrestler, and I'm much more powerful than the guy. So you know, to use the line what I use for the Jorge Rivera fight, I'm a better wrestler, I'm a better striker, I'm a better athlete, I'm stronger, you know. Jiu-jitsu wise on the floor, I think I match up very well with him. I've never been submitted in my life. He's good at taking the back. Apparently that's his big thing. He likes to take the back and he's good at choking people out. I don't think he'll be able to take my back. I really don't. The way my training's gone this fight, you know, I don't think there's a middleweight out there right now that will be able to take me down and submit me.
Thank you for the time, Mike. Always a pleasure. The Ultimate Fighter Season 14 finale goes down this Saturday night, live and free on Spike TV. Michael the Count Bisping goes up against Jason Mayhem Miller. Thanks, Mike. Good luck.